Morning intuitives. I'm gonna get video in this morning before I have to deal with family Christmas drama before people head back to Florida. So welcome to all the new subscribers and thank all of you who take the time to watch, videos made off the cuff by some nobody in a broke down old phone and this cheap ass microphone here. So I guess the information must be good because there's no flash and pizzazz. It's just me talking and attempting vainly to be entertaining and funny. So please like and subscribe, help the channel grow, because I've been told this channel helps people. That's the whole point of it. So help it help more people. So I have some sense of purpose because I'm struggling right now. And given all that I've told you I've been going through, the last 2 years as a whole, but especially the last few months, I think anybody would understand why, except for those who just flat out hate me for being me. But they're status quo worshipers, and I don't want their fake sympathy anyway. So what I want to do today is a narcissism video on signs that you're in a narcissistic work environment. I've done videos on narcissistic bosses, but this one's going to be a little different because it's mainly going to, instead of giving you broad topics, I've been cleaning out stuff because my mother's dead and I got to sell the house. So I've been finding stuff that I haven't seen in years. And this video is going to be heavily based on me telling the story of things that were going on at a job in a narcissistic environment that I had in 2013 and 2014 when I was the assistant superintendent at a private country club in Chester County that was, culturally stuck in the 80s and thought they were a top 100 club, and they weren't, and a proud good old boys club. So this video is mainly going to be about that. I'm going to add a few bits of from other jobs because I've seen similar things at other jobs, also at a country club. So maybe I see a pattern here. Yeah, being an INFJ and all. So hopefully, I hope you don't relate to this. But if you do relate to this and you're thinking, is this me or is this place toxic? This should help you sort out that most likely it is toxic, especially if, like me, in that situation at that country club and the one that I'm going to mention a few bits about, I had someone else as a confidant that saw the exact same things I did. And, it was like a little back and forth. We talk about it for months before we're really like, okay, this is messed up. Like, you see what I see, right? So if two people, especially if it's someone you only know through work, if two people are seeing the exact same things and coming to the same conclusions, there's probably something to that. And especially at this club I was at back in the day, because the other person was also an INFJ. So yeah, we were seeing the same. And he was there for decades. So the pattern had long since been established. So let's get to it. Okay, why I went from loving my job to hating it. I'm going to read my notes here that I wrote 9 years ago. And just to point out, this job, I was an assistant golf course superintendent, meaning like the people who take care of the actual grounds of the place, spray all the chemicals, make everything look pretty, cut everything, do the tree work, all that stuff. Assistant superintendent means that I was the second in command. The superintendent's a department head. I was the right-hand man, salary job, management. Not that good at pay, a lot of long hours, no glory, no respect. Anyway, so at this job, I was recruited to come here from Aronimink because I was tired of working 80 hours a week at a top 100 club as an assistant superintendent. I'd worked summers at this other club before, and the boss was pretty cool back then. So he recruited me to come over, and he's like, well, show me what you got, what you learned at a top 100 over the summer, and I'll give you this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay. And of course, I upheld my end of the bargain, but as always is the case for me in this area, I uphold my end of the bargain. The other person doesn't uphold theirs, and not just in its entirety. I mean, in all. Like, I want to point out with this boss, it wasn't like, he basically said, if you do A, B, and C, I'll give you X, Y, and Z. And I did A, B, C, and D, and I didn't even get X. However, other people in the club, not the club as in the country club, in like the good old boys club, got stuff. So go back to the notes. There was another guy there who worked there. He was a two-strike felon. We started the same day in May of 2008 when we were both seasonal workers. I was in university at the time. And, this guy only had a high school education. He did not have a pesticide applicator's license. He did not have, a college education. in turf grass management and soil science and entomology and all that. I did with honors in that fact. Yeah. Smarter than I let people know. So, but yet he made $2 an hour more than I did, even though he didn't have seniority. Position wise, our time on the job was the same. No education, all that. This guy was able to take time off whenever he wanted, and he never had to come back on weekends, because weekends we had to work split shifts, which were a total pain in the ass, and we worked 7 days a week. He was allowed to leave whenever he wanted to go, work his side jobs, and no one else could do that. And he was always in the break room eating. The dude was constantly eating. He picked the assignments he wanted, even though that was my job to assign as the assistant superintendent, kind of what I do, and spray death chemicals. And he was known to, be doing cocaine on the job. So the rules didn't apply to this guy. Not only did the rules not apply, he was getting paid more, and he was fucking off like most of the time. Nice enough guy, but and the justification for this was, well, his parents used to be members here in the 80s. Okay, so someone gets a free ride at a job because at that time, 25 years ago, his parents used to be members there, whom the head boss, the superintendent, never knew. They were gone long before his time. It's just that whole club mentality, like, well, because the last name and father bestow on son. Get to the better stuff. So a lot of the other drama from the narcissistic thing came from the narcissistic golf pro, who we literally referred to as King Mike, because he thought he was a king. And also, if you were a casting director, casting like an amateur play, and you needed to cast a guy who looked like the infamous portrait of Henry VIII, this guy looks like dead on like Henry VIII, and same mentality too. I'm Michael the First, I am. That's what we used to say to him. So, Pro Shop got all the glory for all the work we did. Not only that, but there'd be big tournaments where I would require my guys to work 12-hour days, and they were getting paid overtime. I wasn't, but I was really pushing them, and I was there doing the work with them too. But it was hard. A lot of those guys had other jobs. A lot of them were immigrants who were also taken advantage of. We'll get to that. So, after this, the membership decided to give us like a little tip, or they intended to. Pro Shop, who was raking it in hand over fist tip wise, and they do, because I worked for Pro Shop at another club, and you do. So they kept what like little tip me and my guys were supposed to get. It was like $50 a guy, but they kept that. Meanwhile, like they easily, minimum, had already gotten 10 times that for each one of their people. But no, more, give me mine, me. So the head pro, despite, he is a department head, he is the head of the golf shop and the assistant pros and the bag boys and all that. That's normal. But then he asserted himself as the head of my department too, which was, grounds, which he has no education in or experience or any know-how. I mean, I'm not doubting his ability to give golf lessons and run a pro shop, because I can't give golf lessons, and I kind of know how to run a pro shop now, kind of. So I can run an outside operation by myself. Yeah, pretty good at that. With, I can run a golf operation by myself with a girl around my arm and a vape in my hand, and the members just chuckle and hand me money. But enough about last August. It was a fun couple weeks there. Anyway, so this guy, King Mike, was always putting us down, saying like, "Oh, got to do this, got to." He didn't understand anything about agronomy. Like, I can't roll greens when there's frost on them, or I have to punch holes to let air into the soil profile, especially when I have a pythium outbreak. It's a plant disease. Don't worry about it. And the best part about, Mike's arrogance and, I know all, I'm the king. You know how he got his job? Nepotism. The guy who held his job, the head pro before him, was his father-in-law. That's right. His father-in-law, who cheated the guy that the majority of the membership wanted to have out of the job. And this is what I was told independently by several people who were there. So, can't say this is 100% what happened, but I tend to believe it because I've heard the same story multiple times from different people, independently of each other. Some of those people don't even like each other. And this father-in-law then paid off King Mike's substantial, like 5-figure gambling debts, and thus handed him the keys to the kingdom. Yeah, so he got his job, who he was married to. The right-hand man, the director of outside operations, would, you know, drink on the job all day. But that was okay because he was the former head pro, the father-in-law's best friend. So you see, depending on who you're connected to, the rules don't apply. And he was made a department head so he could have like the good insurance, because our insurance, if we weren't department heads, was shit. Even though the handbook said, if you're a department head, you can't be tipped. This guy made tens of thousands in tips. And, the pro shop employees all would just hang out a lot of the time, and they'd like get, like decent lunch from the clubhouse, and we were all supposed to get lunch, even though those guys worked 6 hours a day. My guys worked at least 10, and they didn't feed my guys. And the general manager at the time said, quote, well, most of your guys are Mexican. He didn't like it when I recorded that. Yeah, he lost his job. So that's the kind of environment that was there. And you were the bad guy, I was the bad guy, and my co-conspirator, the irrigation tech, because we spoke the truth, because there was some shady shit going on, not just like HR wise, like the stuff I'm saying, but there was some OSHA stuff and some environmental regulations not being done. Whether it's fixed or not today, I don't know, but I'm talking about what was going on, at that time when I worked there 8-9 years ago. Yeah. The director of outside operations was also known to steal tips from the bag boys who, I heard that from a couple of bag boys. I knew a couple of them who worked there. And one of the assistant pros, was known to just play computer games all day and hang out. Yeah, on the clock. You don't have to do nothing. But us, we not only had to do our work, which was substantial, and they cut our budgets, we had to cut our crew, but we were expected to do like little errands for them, like put this ping pong table together. It's like, well, you got 3 guys in your pro shop sitting around watching TV. There's them. Yeah, as you were, boys. Yeah. And then I was like, why didn't you get that tree cut down today? Because I was busy putting your ping pong table together. Yeah. I made all these notes. Yeah. So why I wanted to give that example is to let you know those are signs that you're in a narcissistic work environment. If people can exert their authority in ways they don't have it, like i.e., management of one department trying to claim dominion over managements in other departments. When someone, just because someone is a supervisor doesn't mean they're your supervisor. And that's, it's a problem I ran into at another club too. And, by people who just want to strut around and say what a big shot they are, but they really don't do much. Have you really actually seen them? They're the type of people, this type of manager, you'll see them strut around and talk about what a big shot they are, but they're never the type to like pitch in and help their workers. They just love to talk about how important they are. And a lot of the times they'll be in positions they're not qualified for. It's the who you know or who you married in this case. Not me, this guy. So that's one sign. Another sign is when you try to handle things professionally, like, hey, this isn't right. You can't do this. Like, this is what the law says. And they talk down to you and be like, well, we can do it. Don't you know who I am? We can do what we want. This is my kingdom. It's like, no, there's no kingdoms in the United States. Like, you got to abide by the same laws as every other business. Like, I don't care who your father-in-law is, or, who that used to be a member here and all that. That kind of delusion is a sign of a narcissistic environment too, where they truly believe like, well, this place is different. We don't have to abide by the rules. We're us. We do what we want. We're frozen in time. Like if they have, I don't know, an illegal septic system from the 50s that's a cesspool, and it's a style of waste disposal that hadn't been legal since the early 80s, and in the 20 teens they still have it and lie that they don't. But stuff like that, it's just a blatant disregard for the rules and regulations that all must abide by. Another sign of a narcissistic work environment is Double standards galore, double standards, double standards, double standards. And especially those who protect them, not only those who, get the benefit of them, those who protect them and straight up chastise and try to vilify those like me that stand up for those that are being taken advantage of or exploited or not treated fairly. Like, hey, you can't do this. Like, you can't treat somebody differently because of what department they work for or because of where they were born. And you can't, give someone a free pass just because mommy and daddy played golf here 30 years ago. That's the kind of stuff. And they would fight me on this and straight up be like, no, 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 you're the asshole. This is just how it is. We can do whatever we want. It's like, no, I got some phone calls to make. And they'll try to make you the bad guy in these narcissistic environments when you simply try to, let these people know, like, this is wrong. I can do something. There are organizations and people and officials that can and will make you do things to change this. Like, you have to realize that this isn't okay. And like I said, that's when they'll get on you as the bad guy. Like, how dare you? This is what we do. This is how it's always been. Yeah, tradition for tradition's sake and all that. But when you're in these environments, you basically have two choices. Well, if you're like me, you have two choices. You either call it out or you leave, because sit back and it is what it is isn't an option for us. And I am a fighter, so I feel the need to help those who struggle to help themselves, at my own detriment. And I made some good changes happen there before I bailed out of there, because while the good changes did happen, it was a little bit those that were getting away with robbing the safe, so to say, and doing whatever they want. Oh, they come with a vengeance. They always do, and I knew that was coming, but had to end the gravy train, right, and at least give other people a little bit of what they deserve, what they rightfully had been cheated out of. I had another club where they just didn't believe in paying overtime. Like, they'd expect you to work over 40 hours, but then they wouldn't pay you time and a half. And it's like, no, that's not legal. Like, you can't do that. That's not legal. And, I could go on and on about shady things at country clubs. Yeah. But I hope this was a good example of, from my past, of things to look out for, things that you probably notice if you think, am I in a narcissistic work environment? And if you're noticing these things, and particularly if other people are noticing the same things, you probably are. Get together with those people you can trust who want to call it out and see what you can do. Think it through. A lot of times, if you're the INFJ, you're going to be expected to be the one who does the talking, and other people will back you up most of the time, but they won't be the leader. Remember, progressive change is a good thing, and the rules should apply equally to everybody. Let's end the era of the good old boys club and the reigns of the narcissistic bosses and their borderline enablers. So I hope this helped. Please like and subscribe. Watch the older videos. Check out whatever the channel has to offer, and I should see you in the afternoon.